Welcome back to Project Hospital. I'm Rever, and here we are. If you watched the last episode, you'll know that we were in day 2 and it just turned day 3, and we got a bunch of accomplishments. I had restarted the game, so I don't have them down here, but if we take a quick look at our insurances, we've completed the Cheapo Care objectives, which is great. We also got 30 patients per day, so we got another chunk of money for that, and just a bunch. I'm sorry I didn't go through them, or I was kind of surprised at my own success there. But in any way, things went particularly well. We got everybody through the hospital. Sometimes what happens is you end up with people who stay overnight and they reduce your count. They kind of count towards the next day, but we'll talk about that at some point, probably in this episode. So I now have $132,000. So I would like to do a little bit of construction and show you a trick. I watched a guy, Colonel Failure, his series, and he kept spreading out his hospital, which was wonderful, not realizing that when you go to add another floor, it's free, but only when you go to add it initially. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do first, I'll show you that in a second, is I want to make a corridor down here. It's all going to cost some money, but we have some, and we can go into a little bit of debt. I don't want to go too far because I can't. Oh, by the way, we can come over to this and knock down these walls so we can see. And I'm going to extend this guy out just so we got a corridor. Oh, no. This one's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to extend this one out, and I do need a corridor. So, but what I want to do is eventually there's going to come a time. I only have 4 beds in our observation wing there, and only 2 trauma care. So what I want to do is actually come out 9 here so that I can duplicate this room at some point and put it right here. And then I can also duplicate this and put it here. And then eventually what I would do is put our ICU over here. And that'll be relatively close to where they're coming in, because they come in and they go to this. If they're particularly traumatized, they might end up in ICU, but everybody kind of ends up in ICU eventually. Not everybody. Anybody from any, people just drop off on you and they can end up in your ICU unit. So with that in mind, I am going to also come to here, and we're going to put in an elevator just so that as people come in, and make sure you put it the right way, else they won't be able to get into it. There we go. So now we have that. So what I'm going to do at that point is come back to here, and we're going to add a new floor, and we're going to copy the walls and tiles. Now, if you notice our money, we have $100,000, and I'm just going to copy it because I like this general setup. We'll need much of the same stuff in the next area, and I've already kind of got my 6x6 layout. It doesn't really cost you anything to delete these walls, so let's build a new floor. So there we go. There's our second floor, and it's free. And I probably could have even put my hospital walls up here and got them for free, but whatever. It's not that big a deal. So there we go. This will be the start of our surgery. And the reason we're doing surgery is just because it's the next one down. I think you could do internal medicine. But internal medicine, like I had mentioned in the first video, it's really like a support department. In other words, you don't actually make any money off of that's internal medicine I'm pointing at. When we get an ICU unit, whenever we do that, which is not one of these actual things, it's really not a money maker. It's more like the radiology. So let's come back to our budget, and I'll show you kind of what I mean. It cost us $243 to run our radiology department, which is really not bad. It's not big at this point, but we don't get any money back in for it, and that's the same thing with the ICU. So besides that fact, I'm just going to go right to the surgery because that's going to bring us in the most money. And pretty quickly, once we start getting surgery type patients, we're going to want to up our radiology department pretty much. So let's just build this together relatively quickly. And so surgery, let's take a look at what we need first. We can put these things in. So we're going to need a waiting room. And there is our waiting room from downstairs, right? And we're going to need a reception. And there is our reception. And, well, we don't need a corridor, but we kind of need a corridor. So we're going to put it, oops, that's a little bit too much. And again, the reason you put the corridors in as much as anything is just to get the guy cleaning. Now this floor is a little different, so we'll have some room right here where we might be able to do something. I could move all that up. I don't know if I'm too worried about it at this moment. Yeah, it might even be a good idea to move that up, but for the sake of the video, I'll just keep moving forward. And then we're going to need these general surgery offices. And I'm just going to put in 2 of them. And they're really going to be pretty much the same thing as the other offices. But again, you can't copy the whole thing. You can copy part of a room and then move, like paste it, and it'll actually go in there. But it's not that difficult to come in here and add the different tables or the different, tables, chairs, everything else. Restroom. Again, we have our restroom already kind of laid out there. And we're going to need a common room. And we're going to need a cleaning closet. And we're going to need a surgery lab. So as you can see there, general surgery office, cleaning, yep. We don't have the restroom and those things because they need equipment, but they will show up. So what I'll do is I will put these things in and I will fast forward time. I will get to the point that I can actually do hospitalization, which will be one of the, once I open this clinic, which is just, we almost have it done other than putting the furniture in, we're going to get some objectives. So I'll run through until I get this going, and then I will come back. Okay, we have just treated Sarah Smith. So that's all we really needed to do in order to get our surgery hospitalization going. At the same time, though, I did build a lab, and that was the second objective for our insurance company down here that I had opened up right after I built the surgery clinic. And now we have to treat 5 patients, but the last reward I got was another 20 grand for building the lab there. All right, so Sarah is treated, which means now if we come over to here, we can see our surgery department, and there's our one treated patient. We got $360 from her, or from her insurance, I guess. And now we have to do something very similar to what we have downstairs. So instead of having a trauma center, we're going to have a high dependency unit in surgery, and then we're going to have a regular ward, and then we are going to have the diagnostic units is one of the big differences. So we didn't have a diagnostic unit on the other one, and this is important. This is where the doctors will actually, the on-call doctors will treat the people that are in these departments, much like, we have our on-call here. We'll put that on-call room. And nurses station. And so now with the layout here that we're probably not going to need this many doctors. At some point, it will increase. So I'm going to leave this room here, these rooms here. So, but at this point, 2 doctors is probably enough for us. But there we go. So we'll have a regular ward. We'll have our diagnostic unit. So I'm going to count on the fact for the most part that 5 doctors. We can always move things later on down the road. And I don't really think this room needs to be quite this big, but for now we can get a diagnostic unit right here, though we're probably going to relatively quickly want a second one once things get up and running. You'll see what happens when you do it for yourself, that you're going to have more doctors sitting around doing nothing. But until we fully staff up, you could even end up with more of these. And remember, downstairs, this is where our radiology is. So nothing directly as planned for that. So what I'd say is each of these different departments, not in, the ICU not counted, is really pretty similar in the general things that it needs. So you can, just sort of duplicate this kind of a layout, and with some slight modifications, like again, here we'll put, like with this diagnostic unit being a little bit different. We will need an operating room, and that's a little bit different, of course, and a cardiology unit. But again, we got some room down here to make those things. So let's go ahead and, for right now, do a 6x6. Oops. How big is the operator? Oh, 6x8. So we'll go 6x8. And that minimum size is actually fine. Cardiology unit, we'll stick that down after that. And it doesn't need to really be that big, but let's just do a 6x6 because we can, and then we'll need a sonography unit. And that's going to be 5x6. Now, here's another little goofy thing. The game doesn't really care if we were being a little bit anal retentive, wanted to give everybody a similar amount of space. We could always come down here and just plop floors wherever you kind of want. So we'll do that just to be a little anal retentive, and we'll give everybody a 6x6 room down here. So there we go. So we need to get rid of a few walls. Come down here. And then the walls that we do have are a different color than we probably want. So that would be one of the negatives if you want to go in there and replace them all. Obviously, if we come down here, this is pretty much blue. So I would pick blue walls for this. And that would be an outside wall there. And again, it's at this point in the game, I'm not going to replace too many red walls just because they're red. And we can put some carpet down. And let me go and get this guy running and come back for a final little wrap up on the series. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know, and maybe I'll do a 4th episode if I get enough questions that I don't want to answer in the comments for whatever reasons. All right, I'll be back for a final wrap up shortly. Okay, we have a almost fully functioning surgical department. Well, it actually is fully checkboxed, but if you can see here, again, I know the printing's pretty small. The USG tech is not there, but one of the things, it's always smart to come down here when you're doing these people. So let's look at our technicians. And we already have Linda Allen, who is a USG person, ultrasonogram. So what I'm going to do is come over to her and move her over to that department. So, and then we'll see what we get as far as people go to replace her in the stat lab. Because we really want advanced biochemist. Unfortunately, at this point, we have that. There are USG people available, but that won't always be the case. So, but nonetheless, we took somebody who wasn't the best lab person, moved them or hired them for the lab, and then we moved someone who's capable of the ultrasonogram, and we hired everybody else. So if we look over here now, what I'll do is I'll let things get flowing, but what's going to happen is patients are going to come in. Some of them aren't going to get treated. There's certainly many won't get operated on in our operating room down here. Here's our operating room. And when they don't get operated on in the daytime, they end up sitting in the regular hospital or even the HUD hospital rooms. And, they end up sitting there all night. They get cranky. They don't like that. So you end up having to get a staff for night of surgeons and whatnot. I actually moved one of my doctors out of here. So one of my nighttime doctors is a surgeon. We'll have to get an anesthesiologist and at night. But in general, we're in pretty good shape to move forward, but I'll let things get cranking first. It's usually the first day that you open up all of this, you don't get too many patients. So, but there you go. So we have a surgery department by the, 2 days and a few hours later of being open. And just so you know, I only had to borrow another $20,000, which should be easy enough to pay off. Surgery will make us a good amount of money. Now things will slow down as far as the money goes after this. Like, it's going to be a little bit harder to get grants. We got some low hanging fruit grants, but then it just becomes a matter of patience to, get the money in. But once surgery's up and running, we could make 10 or maybe even close to $20,000 a day profit off of our surgery. We still don't have our radiology going, but it's just a matter of getting that equipment in downstairs. I would like to kind of move that over eventually. If I didn't do this for the video, I probably would have put the surgery department up over here and probably got like an idea of radiology here, and then before I even moved upstairs, because then I could get all that for free flooring. Not a big deal. And so any other last words before I wrap up the series? Again, watch what patients leave. Don't let your debt get too high. I've got a little list here for you. On different days, you're going to get slammed in different departments more. So what's going to happen is, our surgery department here may be fine today, but eventually you're going to get, a bunch of people into surgery, especially when you start getting more and more, we're going to have 40 people coming in. When you start getting 60 or 70 coming in, you may really get slammed in one. So keep an eye on the departments. You want to try to maximize them without going overboard, because while the surgery department's getting slammed, when you do end up having a orthopedic section, there's not going to be anybody in that one. You're going to be wasting money. So just slowly grow it at that point. When it comes to the surgery department, the nighttime surgeons are almost more important, because by the time you pump everybody through on the, in the surgery here, it's a lot of times it's the nighttime people that end up doing the most to operate and take care of patients. At this point, I wouldn't worry too much about a second operating room, and probably will end up with another one of these exam rooms before I end up with an operating room. But that's good, because I can get 2 or 3. A lot of times I'll do all these exams before they'll operate. So that's another reason that the nighttime shift of getting doctors up there will be important. Also, if things aren't going real well, make sure you have enough nurses. At this point on the night shift, I only have one nurse, and they're the ones that move all these patients around that are in these rooms. So it doesn't really hurt to have an extra nurse even to help get efficient with that. But at one point I was, why isn't things moving better? Well, it's just because I really needed an extra nurse. So don't hesitate to even throw another desk in if at some point they're all busy. And, try to stay profitable. And you will be profitable if you just don't overhire way too many people and take it step by step and don't get into too much debt. That's about my advice for it. So I hope this series was helpful for you guys. And, like I said, if you have any comments, if there's enough questions, I can continue, or enough demand, I guess, if you want to see me, some later stage of the hospital. But really, the other department's development is going to be a lot like this. I think this is more than a good start. I think, if you followed everything in my somewhat broken way of describing it, then you'll be in good shape. So once again, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.